What's up, everyone? Welcome to Around the ACL. Michelle Thompson here with Trey Ryder and Jake Brannon, and we are tired. We are tired. I didn't leave the couch pretty much all of yesterday except to take Rome to and from school. Like other than that, me and the couch are best friends. And hopefully repeating that again today. But how are you guys hanging? How you doing, Trey? I mean, you had a really long travel day. I know. Um, not sure how you're even here with us right now.
Yeah, no, that is the benefit, is that I was 7 minutes down the way. But like I've been really trying to get like a full day of. I've had to work the past few days, like off and on, but I'm trying to get my rest kind of spaced in between. I'm not going into the office at all, which is fantastic. But yeah, like it's a balance of like very just extreme exhaustion, but also like just very happy with everything and how we did. I mean, I don't know. I this year just felt a little bit different for me. It felt like I was in a different position than I had been in years past. And I've said this time and time again, like we're going to be releasing a lot of information on the season for next year and what the format looks like, and then all the different things we have planned and ways that we can make our sport better. And it kind of felt like this year was a year of learning, and we got to the finish line, and that's such a thing to celebrate. And this coming year really feels like another year of growth coming up that we're really excited for. So like I am physically exhausted, but almost mentally I'm in a way like motivated as ever, like, and ready to go, and really excited for what we have for the future. And I think there's a lot of things that we're putting into place in ways that we're continuing to grow. And I don't know. So yeah, it's a different feeling. Like I remember last year, I literally was just like, please don't let me see a cornhole bag for like 4 weeks, right? But like I don't think I necessarily feel that way this time. I might want to stay away from a mic from a couple weeks, right? And not have to jump on a stream for 8 hours like you guys do. I don't know how you do that anymore. But at the same time, like I'm really proud of what the team was able to accomplish. I thought it was a great World Championships.
Trey even jumped on his sideline reporter, so my job is in jeopardy.
Well, I had way too much fun with that. I'm literally like jumping on, like, hey, Ryan, I see Noah Wooten way up in the rafters. Can I go walk over there? And they're like, he's trying to get an angle of the camera, and it's just
It was all
like
dark. You're like, I don't care.
yeah,
We're doing it.
it was certainly a lot of fun to pretend to be Meesh and completely just derail our last broadcast of the weekend. It was a lot of fun.
And Jake, how about you? Recovering?
Yeah, I guess you can call it recovering. When I looked on the schedule a couple months ago, there was one weekend in between Worlds and Spencer's, and I thought that would be a great time to decide to move in with my girlfriend that weekend.
Oh,
So
great. Yeah, throw that on top.
I'm currently in the process of packing up everything in my house that I own, and on Saturday we're shipping it down to North Carolina. So it hasn't been, I would say, a relaxing week thus far, but I have been catching up on my sleep. So we've been good in that area. So I'm just taking it one day at a time, relaxing when I can. But yeah, like Trey said, I do not even want to look at a microphone for at least another week. So I've barely spoken. Like I think because I had about a 6.5 hour drive home on Monday, and I think there was at one point where I looked down at my watch and I had gone like 2 hours with no music. It was just me focusing on the road. I didn't say a single word, like straight radio silence. I was like, dang, I didn't even know. I didn't even care. I was like, this is awesome. This is great. I don't want to hear anything. I don't want to talk to anything. It was awesome. But I'm back
Well,
now. I'm better.
I had a long trip back, flew to Atlanta and then Atlanta to Cali. And, Nick, he's pretty much useless. He just sleeps or puts his headphones on. So, like, he's not going to hang out with me for that entire flight. So Corey had to just painfully entertain me for 5 hours. He's like, what do you want to do now, Meesh? Like, okay, we're going to make it through. All right, but let's get into it. We're going to start off with our pro singles recap. Trey Birchfield did take that number one with the sweep. Ethan Walker right behind, and then Eric Davis and Tony Smith. Trey, I mean, how do we even talk about Trey at this point?
Yeah, I mean, Look, it's like let the debates begin, right? I mean, this is the first time that I think we're starting to have legitimate conversations about who the best, the greatest of all time is, right? What I found interesting is, I look at my social media feed, and it's a lot of, and rightfully so, the youngest generation in the sport immediately ready to crown Trey Birchfield the greatest and the best of all time. And to an extent, they make fantastic cases. To an extent, Trey Birchfield's been playing since 2019, right? To have a greatest of all time playing since 2019 is, you know, it's tough, right? I mean, we talk about the greatest in other sports. We're talking about 30, a 20-year career that's been, they've had this legacy for 50 years or whatever it is. So, there's something to be said about that. Now, what I will say, in the young history of the ACL and since its inception in 2015, what Trey Birchfield was able to do this weekend literally puts forward that he's the greatest and most accomplished in ACL history. You can't argue that anymore. 21 total titles, 4 world championships. That's 2 more than anybody else. Jamie Graham's got 2. James Baldwin's got 2. And then, even Matt Guy, who's 20th, who's got 20 titles, he's only got 1 world championship, and it's in doubles. For Trey Birchfield to get his second is just insane. But what I'll say this much, though, is this race has got a long way to go. We got years and years ahead of us before we start crowning true greatest of all times. Because I'll say this much. If Jamie Graham had done the same exact thing this weekend, we'd be having the exact same conversation about Jamie Graham being the greatest player of all time. And to me, naming someone the greatest of all time can't be earned in one particular weekend at one particular event. It has to be a body of work. So, for me, at least addressing the GOAT talk, I think Trey Birchfield has earned one thing. And for me, it's that I can no longer 100% say that Matt Guy is by far and away the only person that can be considered for that award and considered for that title. And now it is completely and totally up for grabs. And it is the job of everybody else for the next 5 to 10 years to see who seizes that ultimate title and creates a legacy for years to come. That's my big picture thought. On more specific, granular level, Trey Birchfield just wouldn't miss. He threw everything that he wanted to. We talked years ago about his form getting worse whenever he was the robot, and he looked more like the robot. There were a couple instances where he had kind of this lean left and right, but for the most part, he was down the center. He was confident, and everything that he knew, every shot that he made, he knew it was going to go in. He was able to beat someone running bags like Tony Smith, and they went into a bag running competition in which Trey Birchfield won. He was able to beat the most defensive player probably in the entire pro division in Ethan Walker, playing at the height of his game. He was able to beat a hybrid player after losing a game against Sammy Soto. Logan Chamberlain, he absolutely obliterated in bracket play. Trey Birchfield just flat out earned that pro singles title, and he just shows that the robot is back. And I wouldn't want to play him again here coming up in the 24-25 season, but Birchfield gets to celebrate. He's on to the Pro Invitational. He's on to next season, and he's a force to be reckoned with. The robot is back.
Absolutely. Jake, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, really quickly, my first thought was it was kind of scary how dominant he was. Like nobody really came close. I think one of the very first matches we started on the Pro Singles live stream was a Trey Birchfield match earlier in the bracket, and I forget who he played, but he dominated the entire time. And I turned to Wally during the commercial break, and I was like, if that Trey Birchfield stays, he's winning the entire thing. And I regret not saying that on the air, because obviously that's exactly what happened. but it was just incredible to watch. It really made me reminisce of that 2021 Trey Birchfield when he won another World Pro Singles title. But I mean, just look at these stats. Obviously, you mentioned first all-time in career titles, the first player to ever win 4 career world titles, the first player to ever win a pro singles and a pro doubles world title in the same year. And he won both of them within a 24-hour span, while also throwing well over a 10-5 in the semis and overall finals to do it. Absolutely disgusting. And I think I could very easily make a case for him being the greatest of all time right now. You mentioned he's only been playing since 2019. I think that could go with my case. He's only been playing since 2019 and already has the most career titles in ACL history. That's nuts. And he's not even 24 years old yet. I think you got to give him some credit. I mean, credit where credit's due. Matt Guy, he's been around the cornhole world for years and years, but even he doesn't have that many titles anymore. I mean, I got to give it up for Trey Birchfield. But I also want to talk about some other players that were in that Final Four. I mean, I was really impressed with Ethan Walker. I really do truly think the best is yet to come for him. He's only 20 years old. This is his only second year in the pro division. I think he has a lot to look up to. And in my opinion, I think he's the best roller in the game. We talked earlier about, you mentioned, you think Ryan Hart was the best roller in the game. I think Ethan Walker has that key right now. He's incredible. And I was kind of really surprised with Eric Davis. You know, he was up big on Ethan Walker going into that media timeout, and then he just kind of fell flat on his face right after that media timeout. Ethan Walker came in and took it to him. So that was really surprising to me. Obviously, he's the best round limited player in cornhole history, but I wanted to see him get it done on a race to 21, and he didn't do it. So I don't know what's next for him. And Tony Smith also really surprised me. I mean, him and Trey Birchfield were neck and neck, and he really only had one bad round the entire game. Ultimately, ended up giving up 8 points in the win, but Tony Smith still really impressed me. I'm excited to see what he can do next season as well.
Yeah, I mean, I talked to Ethan when he won, and I asked what he did during the media timeout to kind of turn it around, and he said he just started thinking about, how important this is, what it means. Like he definitely did like a mental reset, and I think that really helped. And then Tony, I think, I don't know, Trey, you said this, like there was maybe a math error, like he kind of thought maybe it was done before he even threw that last bag.
Yeah, it was kind of a
was
weird ending, and I don't know. Again, it could have been a math error that he wasn't doing it right, or it could have just been like, I can't believe I'm going to give up a 6. I can't come back after a 6 now. Which even so, I wouldn't have loved the mentality there, but it was just a very odd ending, and it came out of nowhere. I mean, they were just going, and even Trey was surprised. When I was going back through and cutting some of the clips, I listened, and if you listen really softly to Trey's player mic, he didn't even realize it was over until it took him a good 3 seconds to be like, oh my gosh, I just won the game on this one throw. I mean, it just came out of nowhere. And we were trying to find the analogy kind of backstage. And the best that we could come up with was you had 2 heavyweights and they were just wailing on each other the entire game, going back and forth. Some of the best boxing matches that you've ever seen. And then in the second to last round, someone's elbow just dropped for a second, and you get that uppercut right to the jaw, knockout, done. And everybody was just stunned because it was so even, it was so back and forth that the knockout blow just came at such an unexpected time. It was, it was just a crazy ending. Now, Jake, you did make a good point. I was wondering, right, when you said it, you said that Eric Davis is the winningest player of all time in round limited play. The tear for Ethan Walker began in round number 10. In round number 10, he scored 2. 11, he scored 6. 12, he scored 4. 13, he scored 4. And then 14, he scored 2. So we talked about patience being the key, Meesh. That's something that you reported on, right? Is it that just whether it was patience or fatigue or stress, if that's a round limited game, Eric Davis is on to the finals, but it was not.
Yeah, it's a really good point. And what you said earlier, I talked to Trey during the break right when I was waiting for them to toss it to me, and I said, everyone's shocked. He said, I'm shocked. Like he didn't know. He didn't know he won. It was crazy. All right, so Trey is obviously into the Pro Invitational. Joining him there will be Jeremiah Ellis, Adam Hisner, Eric Davis, Jacob Brzezinski, Devin Harbaugh, Logan Chamberlain, and Braden Wilson. On the women's side, we have Cheyenne Bubenheim, Miranda Coy, Kaylee Hunter, Sarah Cassidy, Emily Downer, Gina Ramirez, Deb Odom, and Maya Cup. So Pro Invitational will take place at Spencer Makenzie's The Throwdown tournament. That is next weekend. And you said this will be on Friday, Trey?
Yeah, this will be on the Friday night show. Yep.
Perfect. That'll be on ESPN Plus. So you guys can catch that action, and we'll probably pick the partners maybe next week on the show.
Yes, next week on the show, we'll pick the partners. It'll be fun.
All right. And what we've noticed from the Pro Invitational, at least from past seasons, is sometimes the teams that you're like, like with Cheyenne Mark Richards, they're going to sweep it. I've lost all my words. What's the word? Contest.
There's no competition. Yeah, there's
no competition. And I feel like the season before it was something like that too, where we thought it was a lock.
We had Mark and Cheyenne playing in Airmail City 2 years ago, and then last year I believe it was Cheyenne and Jamie Graham maybe, and we thought they were going to kind of win everything, and it never works out that way.
It really doesn't. So it's just very interesting. So what are your thoughts on the finals there?
Yeah, the Pro Invitational is always a blast, and when you put it on site at the Throwdown, it even adds to the fun and the energy. If we go back and look at the previous 2 seasons and how things have shaked out, we had Tony Smith and Kaylee Hunter win a couple of years ago. Last year was Kimberly Glass, Kimberly Broman, and Caleb Batson. So we've seen different names kind of peak towards the end. I think it's really going to be a balance of who can find some chemistry and who just gets hot, right? Now, you are playing somewhat outside. We're going to be in that same building, right? So the Pro Invitational always adds that element. You have to be able to handle the outside element. So I look for someone that is going to have success throwing outside. So that's just something to kind of keep in mind as I look at the full lineup for the Pro Invitational. Really excited to see maybe some first-time players, right? We haven't seen Emily Downer. We haven't seen Gina Ramirez. I don't even believe we saw Deb Odom last year in the Pro Invitational. So seeing some first-time players and how they handle it will be interesting. But then also, you look at someone like Miranda Coy, who last year paired up with Tony Smith. Tony Smith was coming off of an MVP, and Miranda was probably the best woman in that tournament as far as talent goes. She was scoring 6s and 7s, and it was Tony Smith that wasn't able to hold up on his end. So you really need to have a balance of teammates on paper that come to play and look to get that win. So really, my eyes are kind of on these newcomers and these players that haven't played in this event before, and how they're able to handle it. I always think that when we talk about playing outside, I really like the bag flight of Kaylee Hunter. She has always been someone that I think has been able to handle it really well. Miranda Coy, being someone that plays on a weekly basis outside in Florida, is used to varying conditions. I think that benefits her as well. So I think those two are probably poised to make the most runs, and it will be fun to see who else on the newcomer side has a really good run.
Jake?
Yeah, really quickly, my focus was really on the men's side. I feel like a majority of the season we talked about the rookie class and the juniors in the division. And how about only having one junior player in that top 8 and only 2 rookies in Jeremiah Ellis and Braden Wilson? It just goes to show you that, man, these veterans, these seasoned vets, these 18, 19, 20-year-old seasoned vets are coming to play. No, I'm looking forward to see players like an Eric Davis, who's looking to bounce back from that world championship experience. We call him the magician. I feel like he can perform really well outside in these conditions. I'm also looking forward to seeing a Braden Wilson, a little young kid getting paired with one of the top elite women in the division to see if he can make a big run and make the broadcast of that. So it'll be really fun to see.
Is this round limited, Trey, or is it to 21?
This is round limited. Oh, now you put me on the spot. No, I gotta go check. I gotta go check. Don't put me on the spot.
I feel like it was in the past, but I wasn't sure if we were doing that. So Yeah. Okay. We'll keep you posted on that one. Next week when we pick up, we'll have all the answers for you. Moving on to pro doubles. Trey Birchfield, Adam Hisner take number 1, Alan Rawls, Chris Kingsbury 2, and Alex Hicks, Ryan Trader, and Stephen Bernasett, Philip Lopez Jr. Trey, it's Trey again.
Yeah, I mean, again, I could say all the same things about Trey, but I think I'll actually just go over to Adam Hisner because I don't think people appreciate how big of a win this was for Adam Hisner. Trey kind of steals the spotlight. Adam Hisner had made it to 4 different Final Fours of the World Championships in his career and was 0 for 4. Twice in singles, twice in doubles. He had been right at the edge of being crowned a world champion, and so many times he just came so close to come up short. For him to be able to get across the finish line, to get that win, to get that championship, I know just means the world to him. For so many years, he was paired with Cody Henderson, and they always just felt like the perfect match. And now maybe as you look back and we look at kind of the season in review, is it maybe just having someone a little bit more on the quiet side or a little bit more on the tame side down the other end of the board is ultimately what made the difference. But I think we saw a growth both from Birchfield and Hisner this year in that Trey pushed Adam a little bit on the boards, but also allowed Adam to be himself and allowed Adam to be the loud one and be the one that was the vocal leader of the team. But Adam also pushed Trey to get out of his shell and become someone that was more extroverted. And so in the end, it was a really special partnership that they were able to put together. And you know what? I think there's no doubt in my mind that they were the best team in the world this year now. Because for so many months we were talking about how good they were and how they couldn't be beat. And then when the pro season hits, they just couldn't put it together. Well, the good news for them is that the most important pro event of the year, they finally got things back together and were able to get that win. So I think it was just really, really special. Shout out to Philip Lopez making 3 straight Final Fours in doubles. I still think he's got a little bit of the nerves in order to handle that type of stage and that situation. I think he leveled off in the second half of the game, but the first half of the game, he really struggled. And I think that was part of the decision-making process. I mean, the deciding factor. Alan Rawls and Chris Kingsbury, I can't even say that they gave it away because I really don't think that they did. I mean, for Alan Rawls to hit the airmail that he did in the situation that he did, and then on top of it hit another bag where he didn't hit it perfectly, but at least pushed a bag in to stay alive. They fought back. I think it was really just a case of them running into a destiny team in Birchfield and Hisner. I think they put maybe any other team in the pro division on that stage in the finals, and Rawls and Kingsbury may be your pro doubles world championships. I know it sounds sour for Kingsbury to make the finals of singles and now make the finals of doubles, but I really think Kingsbury in particular is just getting started. This is going to be a team that's going to be here for years to come. But also, was just genuinely impressed by a number of different teams that fought their way through and made it a really, really special World Championships. Trader and Hicks, again, I just think there's something going on with Alex Hicks right now when he gets to that broadcast court. I would say that him and Harbaugh are probably in a similar mental state when they get under that broadcast court. I'm confident that they're going to figure it out eventually. But like we always say, sometimes it just takes longer than others. Not everybody can be, the jump onto that main stage and just act like everything is normal because it takes a long time to get ready for that. They'll get there. But in the end, yeah, Birchfield, Hisner, kudos.
Yeah, I agree that Hisner has helped Trey get out of his shell, and I'm so proud of the way he interviews now. And I saw people giving him some grief about, oh, you should be more humble. And it's like, this is in the moment right after he wins. And he wrote, I used to try to avoid winning just so I didn't have to interview. That's how much he didn't want to do that. So the fact that he's interviewing well and speaking highly of himself. And I think that it's phenomenal, and I think it's great TV, and it makes my job easier. So thank you, Trey, don't back down to anyone that says otherwise. I think it's awesome, and you deserved it. So I can't say anything about it. Jake, thoughts on doubles?
Yeah, just a couple of things. You mentioned when you were talking about Adam and Trey at the beginning of the season, it kind of felt like it was an introvert versus extrovert type of team, and it kind of raised some questions, at least for me, as to how they would react. But you kind of put it perfectly, Trey, about how Trey allowed Adam to be himself and be that loud dude who was able to get fired up because of his antics, and it kind of helped Trey break out of his shell. And we mentioned I've never ever seen Trey as enthusiastic and as animated as he was this past weekend, and I think that's all goes back to how Adam Hissner treated him as the season progressed. So I think that's really cool. I think that helped Trey do what he did this weekend because of that. But it almost feels like Adam Hissner kind of took a backseat to Trey Birchfield. Trey threw an 8-8-6 in that semifinal game against Philip Lopez Jr. and Steven Bernstedt, but was okay because Trey threw a 10-2-9. Adam found it in the finals and was still outthrown. Adam threw a 10-7-3 against Chris Kingsbury, but Kingsbury threw a 10-9-3. So it just goes to show that how good Trey was on that other end, because even with those struggles that Adam Hissner had, they still found a way to win. So I'm really impressed by that. So it was 2 years in a row. Chris Kingsbury, like you mentioned, was just a few points away from winning a world title. Last year was in singles to Jamie Graham. This year it was in doubles with Alan Rawls. So I think him and Allen are both right there at that end. I think they're going to be a top 5, top 10 doubles team next year, assuming they stick together. I really want to see how they can perform next year as well. And like you mentioned, it was a cool stat for Philip Lopez Jr. being the first person ever to make a pro doubles Final Four at the World Championships for 3 consecutive years. The only problem is he has absolutely nothing to show for it, which really stinks. I guess the best fact about that is that you're on the losing end of that 20-2 comeback from Jay Rubin and Jordan Power a few years ago, which really stinks. So I feel for Philip Lopez Jr. I feel for Chris Kingsbury, who are 2 players who have both come really close to getting over that hump, but have yet to do it yet. And you mentioned it, Alex Hicks continues to not perform on the broadcast court. I think that's something to think about as the next season progresses, because he has the talent to make it there, just like Devin Harbaugh, just like you mentioned. But if you can't get over that hump, it's something you got to put into consideration for next year as well. And actually, we're going to go back to Spencer's next week, where Alex Hicks made his broadcast debut a few years ago with Mark Richards. So I'm curious to see what happens there.
And you mentioned pro doubles world champions Alex Hicks and Devin Harbaugh.
Yeah, well, they've both gotten over the hump at Spencer's. Devin's won one, and did Alex win his?
Alex did not win his, but he actually played very well at Spencer's.
Yes.
He didn't.
So it's interesting that they both can do it at Spencer's.
Yep.
Which is very different environment, but still, there's a big paycheck with Spencer's.
It's more. I wonder if it's because it's more like more of a laid back environment.
Yeah,
like we're having fun. We're just hanging around. And I guess that's when he can perform.
We are, but remember, it's a sizable check, though. So it's like maybe you don't have the pressure of a typical broadcast court, but there's a big chunk of money up for grabs.
Yeah. And if we're on the topic of talking about teams who performed well, I got to give a big shout out to Trey Hunt and Bobby Hunt. Nobody really talked about them at all, rightfully so, coming into the World Championships, and they just blow by everybody. Take on Alex Rawls and Derek Holland in the winners bracket final. They were up huge. I want to say it was 20-9, and then Alex and Derek come all the way back, tie the game 20-20, 20-19, something like that. And then Trey Hunt hits a huge backside airmail drag to win the game, put them into the king seat. Ultimately, they did get double dipped, which stinks, but got to give them a shout out, man. They played really well, and I'm curious to see what they can do this upcoming season as well.
Right, we had some other divisions to go through. First of all, pro teams, Cali Slingers takes number 1, Carolina Coasters takes number 2, women's singles, DLE 1, Cameron Belvin 2, women's doubles, Cheyenne Bubenheim and Cameron Belvin in first, and Sarah Cassidy and Elizabeth Tennyson second. Senior singles, Damon Dennis first, Terry Mathis second. Senior doubles, Frank Maudlin and Jay Dotson in first, and Damon Dennis and Pat Sem in second. Your mixed doubles champions were Jacob Trzynski and Cameron Belvin, with Jamie Graham and Lexi Hugeback in second. And then for our tournament of champions for the women, Cheyenne Bubenheim, number 1, Kaylee Hunter, number 2. And then in doubles, Kaylee Hunter and Dina Ramirez is 1, and Cheyenne Bubenheim and Cameron Belvin in second. So, Trey, any thing jump out at you there for all the rest of our events for Worlds?
Yeah, I wish I could talk about a lot of them, but I'll keep my thoughts to just a couple. First, I gotta give props to Meesh's slingers, man. I mean, what in the world? Like 2 sweeps in the semis and in the finals, back to back, just absolutely run through the bracket. We have not seen a more dominating performance by a pro team ever in the history of the long history of the pro teams division. But at the same time, like, it's probably going to be a long time before we see another sweep in the semis and finals. I mean, just absolutely dominating performance from start to finish for those slingers. I just can't believe they were able to pull it off in that regard. Tony Smith was having so much fun up there. It was kind of refreshing to see Tony Smith like loose and living it up on that. Corey Gilbert was insane. I mean, just absolutely killing it, taking down. Look, he's played Jamie Graham. Someone fed me a stat that he's played Jamie Graham 8 times in singles and doubles over the past 2 seasons. And prior to that game, he was 0 for 7. He had never beaten Jamie Graham. And he shows up on the court, and him and Ricky Gonzalez just absolutely take it down. They win the whole thing. And I'm just so impressed by the slingers. Just this, island of misfit toys that just figures out how to put it all together and get the win. And I think it goes to speak to how energy can be a factor. And when it comes down to the big stage, look at the 2 teams that made the finals. It wasn't the teams with the best records or throughout the entire year. It was the team that played like a team and brought the energy and had the faith in one another to get it done. And that was the Coasters and the Slingers. But the Slingers get the big win. If I have to go anywhere else out of that long list that you went to, I feel like I got to go to Damon Dennis. I had a chance to, see a lot of Damon Dennis senior singles and senior doubles world championships. In this one in particular, I got a chance to talk to him afterwards. And, you even heard it there. He's got a decision to make of whether or not he's going to retire or if he's going to come back as a pro. I really hope we get him back one more time, just to give him the proper, send off and swan song. Because I think that's important when you have someone like that as that figure to be able to do that for someone. But it's not Damon Dennis's style to want that anyway. So it's not going to surprise me that if he wants to go off in the sunset without any big commotion. But Damon Dennis, again, has just been the pinnacle and the face of seniors division cornhole. Been so good for a number of years, and just it's been a pleasure over the years to be able to call all of his matches and see him continuously win. And I think a lot of people will miss seeing Double D if he does step away from the game, being able to just run bags with the best of them on that slick side, throw that ugly cut shot, whatever it may be. But people forget Damon Dennis was the first ever doubles world champion alongside Philip Hayden for the American Cornhole League. So I think Damon Dennis, regardless of what he decides this offseason, whenever that Hall of Fame comes, I'm pretty darn sure Damon Dennis has got a spot in the Hall of Fame. So I hope it's not the last time, but if it is, it was certainly a pleasure all these years being able to watch Damon.
Totally agree. And I don't know if you're going to talk about it, Jake, but I just wanted to say something that was impressive to me was DLE, coming from the world of psychology, there's a lot of techniques I teach players to deal with the nerves. And she executed all of them. I've never worked with her, but she executed all of them. She does a lot of the hand shaking, the arm shaking, the looking down, the focus, the breathing. So I have no idea if it's something she's working on, but watching her, I just saw her execute so many intelligent tools to deal with nerves, and obviously ultimately got her the win there. But Jake, who are you looking at?
Yeah, let's go back to the top and let's talk about teams real quick, because I had the ability to sit in the stands and watch both the very quick semifinals and final matches for the California Slingers. They were just dominant. Like, there's no really other word to describe it, and it kind of feels like they came out of nowhere. I mean, if we're looking at these standings, the Cali Slingers, I mean, they were 8 games out from the division of the High Rollers. And what do? They come into the semifinals against the High Rollers and smoke them. And then when you talk about the Coasters finished under 500, 51-60. They were 4 games out of the division lead. And what do? First round of the playoffs, they take it to the best team in the league, the Ohio Aviators, and it wasn't particularly close either. And then they beat the Freeze in the semis, and then then they obviously lose to the Slingers overall. But man, you talk about a bunch of misfits. I mean, both teams really didn't feel like they belonged there at the start of the season. And you got to give them credit. I loved what Tony Smith did as a captain from watching in the stands. Every single time there was a timeout called, whether it was by the Slingers or by their opponents, you saw Tony Smith run out to the court and talk to them too. Talk about strategy, talk about what they should do with their bag placement. And I love that from a captain, because it just shows he has the intensity and he has the drive to want to win. So I got to give him a shout out for that. Corey Gilbert started doing the same thing too towards the end. Moving down the list, it's kind of hard for me to talk about a lot of these because most of these events happened while I was live streaming the Pro Qualifier. But yeah, like you said, Dia Lee, I mean, if we're looking statistically wise, a 10-7 over 27 rounds against Cameron Belvin is absolutely insane. So you got to give her some credit. She's earned her spot in the pro division for next year, and I hope she accepts. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what she can do on the courts in that women's division.
Yeah, I was one thing I was going to add is and that was one that Cameron Belvin wanted bad, because Cameron Belvin in particular had already won 2 big events at the World Championship. She had already won the mixed doubles World Championship. She already won the women's doubles World Championship. No one has ever won all 3. So she would have been able to do something that not even Cheyenne Bubenheim had been ever able to do, and that's win all 3. So you could tell she wanted that badly. But going back to that game, I think it was probably round 4 or round 5, she let out this little sarcastic smile after 2 or 3 double 4-baggers in a row, because I think she's starting to realize, okay, Miss Dia Lee is going to start putting some bags in the hole, I think. So very much a bag runner. I'm interested to see what Dia does in the pro division as far as when she runs up to some defense, because about as flawless as an offensive execution as you can really get. I mean, besides being a 10-8 versus a 11-1 or something like that. I mean, she really executed about as high as a level as you can. She does have kind of the Bubenheim strategy of, if there's a bag in front, I'm going to clean it up, kind of erase the board, as Anthony has begun to say. So just interested to see how she handles a more defensive group of players that will run into her. But certainly for her to get that big win is special.
My other favorite storyline is Noah Wooten posted, "Hey, I'm looking for a partner for mixed doubles," meaning his girlfriend did not choose him to play with. And so when she won, he posted a picture. Good choice, Cameron. Good choice in picking Jacob Trzynski. I think that worked out for you. So funny how that works. Moving on to our pro qualifiers. So exciting last day. Our pro qualifier winners are Tyler Stratton, David Brown, Devin Thompson, Ty Thompson, Mike Jaquez, Julius Reyes Jr., Curtis Haddix, Chase Lester, Zach Akins, Daryl Saylor, Tubby Cobb, Kyle Petering, Clayton Eli, Oscar Morena, Joseph Garcia, Lucas Householder. So those are your 7-1 or 8-0s. And then we went to our bracket, and our winners were Tyler Watts, Austin Slowbaum, Dawson Manuel, Braden Easterling, Caden Frost, Tristan Deese, Gio Mora, Scott Benner, Brendan Earls, Duncan Clemmer, Lesson Allen Jr., Riker Wells, Tyler Goodwin, Caleb Chambers, Gary Bearpaw, and Tim Bohatton. So congrats to everyone who made it through the gauntlet. Your last chance is going to be those local qualifiers to see if you can grab a spot that way. And I did see some people on social media write that, like, it's not done yet. I will attempt to get that spot through that method. But really, really tough day. Jake, I'll start with you since you were the one who was there through all of that. And whatever's jumping out at you.
Yeah, I'll start off by saying it was a long day. And, I walked into the building because the past few years I had participated in the Pro Qualifier, obviously. But this year I decided not to. Walking in that building Sunday morning kind of still gave me the same vibes, like nervous for everybody else, because it's a long day. It's a stressful day. It's a nerve-wracking day. And honestly, I didn't want anybody to have to go through what I endured last year with the way things ended. Luckily, I don't think anything was as bad, but I was still nervous for all these players. I got to give a shout out to a couple of my people, Lesson Allen Jr., the only pro from the state of Maryland who made it through the gauntlet. So shout out to him. And a couple of people that piqued my interest. Gio Mora. We had us and the directors had a list. We had a perfect game plan that was going to have us have the last broadcast match, and it wouldn't be awkward with, putting a camera on a different set of boards, and it was going to work out great. And then Gio Mora won his deciding game in 7 rounds, and it absolutely derailed everything. So I guess it's more of not necessarily a bad thing, but just a dominating effort from Gio Mora. You got to give him some credit. A couple other people that really caught my interest, the 2 players who had the highest PPRs in that 6-2 bracket. It was Gary Bearpaw, who threw an 11.33, and Tristan Deese, who threw an even 11. Gary Bearpaw, it was absolutely insane watching him play. He is your typical, stereotypical old man who throws slick side bags and does not miss the middle. And if you even think about blocking him, he will no hesitation shoot an airmail that does not even touch the hole. It goes right through the back. I was really, really impressed with him. He was incredible. And then you have Tristan Deese, who threw an 11. He had to play Caitlin Allhouse in that winner is a pro, loser goes home match. Caitlin threw a 10-4-5 over close to 30 rounds and scored 10 points. So I feel for her, but Tristan was just, locked in. And I cannot wait to see what he does in that pro division. Other players that really caught my eye, Tyler Stratton is a dog out of Michigan. I'm glad that he got through. Ty Thompson, he's a dog out of Texas. Mike Jacquez, another slick side player. He was really good. He actually put Tristan Deese in that 6-2 bracket because they were both 6-1 at the time. Braden Easterling, he's a dog. Brandon Earls, college national championship. Shout out ACL College. He's a dog. This pro division is going to be fun next year. This rookie class is something sweet to look at for sure.
Yeah, I'm very curious if there's any like Jeremiah Ellis in this rookie class that you guys see. Like, is there anyone that you feel like is that dominant coming in?
I don't know. This one doesn't have that same feel of a single person. Look, I've heard a lot of great things about Riker Wells, a lot of great things about Sebastian Schaefer-Ford, who didn't qualify via the the qualifier, but did via open standings. Braden Easterling comes with a lot of hype. Even Gary Bearpaw. Jake hit it on the head. This is a guy that's going to throw 40 bags in a row. Like, you better start playing defense on him and hope he misses some airmails. The guy is very Matt Guy-esque. I remember looking about halfway through the open season, and this must have been January, February timeframe, and I was looking at the best PPRs across the entire ACL at all levels. And number 1 was Matt Guy, right? Number 2 was Gary Bearpaw, right? This is someone that I think will even rival Matt Guy in the PPR department. Now, he may not win everything. We talk about really heavy offensive game styles don't often win these big tournaments anymore. But I will say he's going to come close in a couple of them because he's just that type of player. I think other ones, you mentioned Tristan Deese. Tristan Deese is someone that I've had the opportunity. I called it every single regional that I did this season. He was someone there that was going head-to-head, toe-to-toe with the best players that the Rock Hill region has to offer. I know a lot of the Rock Hill hometown faithful were so excited to see Tristan Deese finally get his pro card. That felt like a long time coming type of thing. You mentioned Brandon Earls. Shout out Duncan Clemmer. Like he came out one place short from requalifying because one, let's just say someone didn't get signed up for the ACL World Championships and could not compete in it in singles. And then in doubles, him and Josh Holland finished 51st. And so Duncan came to me the night before and said, "Do I really need to play in this?" And I said, "Yes, you do." And so he competed all day long. His game got drawn out because we thought we were going to put it on a live stream. I gained so much respect for Duncan Clemmer this weekend just based on what he's like. He even talked to me. He's like, "I'm not really going through a great, I'm having some mental battles that I'm facing right now." And I said, "Just play and give it your best." He gave it his best. He requalified the hard way. You can't but help but just like be proud of someone like Duncan Clemmer for being able to do that because it is such a brutal and tough thing to do. If there's anything I got to say, this year's pro division and these qualifiers feel not as top heavy and not as high floor, high ceiling, low floor, but more of a high floor, low ceiling type of thing. I think there's a lot of great, solid pros that are going to add depth to this division. The question will be, will they be able to match the top level talent that we've seen year over year coming into this division? Because it feels like every year we're talking about how good this rookie class is. I think this might be the year where we don't have 3 or 4 that are competing for MVP, right? It might be one where our top players, a top 15 player, maybe a borderline top 10 player. I'm not sure if we have a Jeremiah Ellis in this class, but hey, look, I wasn't thinking Jeremiah Ellis was going to do what he did this year at this point last year. So I knew he was going to be good. I didn't think he'd be that good. So it's interesting to see how this division is shaking out, and really, really excited for next season.
Yeah, just wondering, when Mark Richards had his rookie season, at least I had no knowledge of him. So I just wonder if we have one of those in the class too, or just a little sneaky in the background.
I mean, I think Mark Richards threw like an 8.8 in the pro qualifier.
He did?
It wasn't very good. I mean, he wasn't. Yeah, no. I think he went 6-2 in the pro qualifier. It wasn't as if he breezed through the pro qualifier.
Okay. I mean, interesting.
It was a 3 or 4 month turnaround for Mark Richards to go from nobody to somebody really, really important very quickly.
Very quickly. All right, it's time for hot takes. What do you got, Trey?
All right, I'm going to go back and look at this all-time titles list. My prediction is that for next season, we see back and forth on this all-time titles list, and we get 3 different lead changes for the all-time title winner by the end of next season. So whether that's Jamie Graham, Matt Guy, Trey Birchfield, Mark Richards, even Eric Davis coming up through. I mean, something happens. We get some volatility. I think this is going to be a really fun race to watch over the next few years.
All right, Jake.
Really quickly, I got a twofer. Gary Bearpaw, 2025 MVP. Book it.
Whoa.
Also,
that is sizzling.
I'm telling you, hot take. Also, hold on. Also,
that's like the hottest take we've ever had on this show. Yeah. Like that's not even close.
If he plays like he did in that pro qualifier,
we can have this show. We'll rename it the Jake Brandon.
Let's go, baby. Let's go. No, and then since I won't be here until after Spencer's, my hot take is that I will consume at least 5 fish burritos from Spencer Mackenzie's.
This is normally Trey's.
Bump those numbers up, rookie.
I still have yet to have one of those. We'll make sure of it this time. I'm going Pro Invitational. Deb was fired up more than she's always fired up, but she was extra fired up when we saw her on the broadcast. So whoever gets Deb is winning this. You know, we don't typically get the like comment like we think it's going to be Cheyenne, it's going to be obvious, or Miranda, and it's not, hasn't happened that way. So whoever gets Deb, we'll find out who that is next week, winning the Pro Invitational. All right, guys, that's all we got time for. We'll talk more about Spencer's next week. Thanks so much for joining us.